Trustee Martin. Trustee Stone. Trustee Turner. Trustee Romero. And Trustee Rowe.
Types of leave are included in the master agreement, and there are two different types of sabbatical, including the child rearing and also just a general sabbatical. In addition, we also have some exciting news to report with regard to a principal hiring at Ernest Hemingway School. So staff from Hemingway participated in the screening of 9 applications, and a panel made up
And then going forward,
requiring all staff, all current staff, to provide either proof of vaccination or a medical exemption. Now we're in the situation in which we don't have information with regard to whether someone is considered fully vaccinated, whether they've had a booster, when they've had a booster. We don't track any of that information. And so moving forward with the hiring season, it puts us in a position in which there are two separate, essentially, categories of, we have staff who have not had to provide that, but we are asking staff coming into the district new to provide that. So I was wondering whether we could revisit that issue.
It's not actually on the action agenda. I did talk to the Superintendent Foudy about that. And if someone wants to make a motion to that effect, I'm fine with it. I think you know what my position is. It hasn't changed at all.
Do we make a motion to put it on the agenda, or do we make the motion to revisit the?
Well, I
It's
am a
late.
little troubled by the fact that it was not specifically on the agenda.
Can we put it on the agenda for next
I
week?
knew from Superintendent Foudy and I think also from Brooke that they wanted to revisit this issue. And I have no problem with that, but it isn't listed as such on the agenda. And it would be the repeal or the revision of a policy that the board adopted, as you say, in September. And I'm quite uncomfortable with it not being a specific item on the agenda.
If I may, Chairman Rourke, I think this issue was actually raised and wasn't specifically outlined or defined during the September 14th board meeting, but during a discussion with regard to the personnel report and new hires, the board brought it up and I believe made a motion to amend the item at the time, so just respectfully clarifying that that was how it came about during the September 14th meeting.
Well, I don't doubt that, but this, I think, is a little bit different story in that it is a policy which is in place and has been since September. If somebody wants to make the motion and then second it, I'm not going to stand in the way. I think it is a problem because of the fact that it's not listed on the agenda as such. Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Stone.
It seems like the kind of thing that we should be getting feedback on too, if we're trying not to slip things through without having opportunities for feedback. Is our next meeting, I think not next week.
We have
Our
a
next
work
meeting is
session,
April.
don't we?
Our next work session is April 12th, right before the
Oh,
board meeting.
got it.
Should we put it on that board meeting and on the information
Or-
agenda?
Or
on the
can we have a
action?
special, I mean, I guess, if I may, Brooke, is it inhibiting you from making hires? And I guess, is it something that we need to maybe have a special session next week after we've had, Brooke has had some time to provide us with information and some background?
I don't think that there is necessarily a way for us to determine the number of individuals who are considered qualified candidates for a position, and if offered a position, would then rescind their acceptance based on that. I can anecdotally say that we have had an individual who is a prospective hire who asked specifically about that policy. Was this still the policy of the board? And indicated that he would not be interested in moving forward. But I mean, I don't have any way of knowing whether there would be a lot of people or just one or two people. I think the difficulty with regard to human resources applying this is the fact that it's not or was not required for current staff. And although we know that at the time, there were, at least from the survey, there were probably a majority of staff who had indicated to HR and to district administration that they were fully vaccinated. Again, I go back to the fact that we don't have a clear picture of how many individuals since that time that indicated they were fully vaccinated have received a booster, what type of booster, when it was, because that is what CDC has provided as the definition of fully vaccinated. So it, in my mind, sets up a situation in which we're asking one group to provide something, but we're not asking the same of another group.
Well, the one group was already hired. We would be forcing on a group that was hired before the pandemic, something that obviously would be controversial. And it is to their credit, the majority of staff were all vaccinated. But those people who same claim. They don't even come close to it. It seems to me, one of the things that we used as an example of why we could eliminate the masking requirement was the high rate of vaccination in the county at large. And why we would want then, after we have done away with the mask mandate, to permit people to be hired who have not been vaccinated. I don't understand the reasoning behind that at all.
If I may, Chairman Rourke, I don't think the issue is always a situation in which someone has not been vaccinated. I think in some situations, they merely do not want to be asked or have to provide proof. I think we've seen that in the public and in the discussions and arguments about this as we've gone along. This isn't a personal opinion on my part. It is partially due to the fact that as we struggle to hire hard-to-fill positions, if we're in a situation in which we have a hard-to-fill position and we find a qualified candidate and on principle that individual does not want to accept because they don't want to be asked or provide proof, that's different than essentially requiring everyone or not anyone at all to provide that moving forward.
I'm not sure I understand it. We have a group of people who were hired before the pandemic,
We do.
and we have not elected to make vaccination mandatory for that group. And when that group was hired, there was no pandemic. So we would be, in effect, retrofitting those people that we had previously hired. It seems to me it's quite a different story. If somebody wants to work in this district, they want to be employed by the district, they say we want to be employed by the district, but we do not want to be vaccinated. And I feel that way particularly since we've done away with the mask mandate. There are plenty of conditions that apply whenever you take a job. I've hired lots of people over the years in my various jobs. And anybody who comes in to my office and says, well, I want the job, but here's what I'm not going to do, is going to be right back out the door just about as quickly as they came in. And I don't understand why it should be different with this district. We're trying to protect everyone else. And if somebody comes here to be hired saying, well, I don't want to be part of that program, my response is that I don't want you to be part of the staff in this district. I mean, that's just my position. I don't want to argue it with you, Brooke.
Right.
But I think that it's clearly distinguishable. I think we made it quite clear that one of the reasons we were doing away with the mask mandate was the high rate of vaccination in this county, and the fact that it looked like far and away the majority of our staff was vaccinated. So to back off now and say, yeah, if you don't want to be vaccinated, you don't have to, makes no sense to me. And as far as trying to keep up with them, I'm not so concerned with that. If somebody's already gotten vaccinated and for whatever reason they don't get a booster shot, I don't think we have to police that. But at least when they were hired, they were in fact vaccinated. And I think that provides a level of protection in and of itself that we need.
I'd just like to point out or ensure that on the record that I have the utmost of safety and health in mind with regard to staff. And I hope that there is not a sense that I do not have that within the forefront of my mind the entire time. Human Resources is always an advocate for every staff, and I would be hard-pressed to find someone who would disagree with that sentiment. I am not attempting to ask for something because I want there to be more lax standards or to create a situation in which staff do not feel protected. I'm merely talking about what I view as a distinction and inequitable situation in which we have a group of staff that we are asking one thing and another group of staff that we are not asking the same thing. So I want to make sure that it's on record that the Human Resources Department and I as HR always am thinking about the best interests, health, and safety of staff.
And I'm not suggesting that you aren't. I don't oppose you, I oppose the policy, which I think would be quite a different thing. Yes, trustee Leonard?
So I feel like there's a discussion right now being had with it not really on the agenda, and so I'm wondering if I'm not prepared, I wasn't, and I don't think any of us are to really be having this conversation. So can we agree to put on the agenda for next board meeting to have a discussion and be prepared to do so?
Well, I think we have to, as far as action is concerned.
Great.
I don't think we can get around that. Is there some emergency here? Is there some reason why this has to be decided right away, or cannot wait until April?
I raised the issue because we are entering into the throes of the hiring season.
Yes, go ahead, trustee Turner.
As part of that discussion, I think we ought to include our policy on volunteers. I think we're also requiring volunteers to be vaccinated when they come onto the school grounds. So use that as part of the discussion.
And substitutes.
And substitutes.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I
Trustee Stone.
I also don't feel prepared to talk about this tonight. I haven't had enough time to think about it. And I think there are a lot of aspects to it that we really need to consider. So I would support putting it on the April agenda.
Well, and I think that we owe everybody the opportunity to comment. And since it didn't appear on the agenda, I mean, I knew that Superintendent Foudy and HR Director Marshall did want to have it discussed, but it is not on the action agenda. I'm not taken by surprise. And I think to make it official and to give everybody the opportunity to make their comments known, we need to put it on the action agenda, and if we're not meeting again until April, Madam Clerk, put it on the agenda, if you would please, for action on that night.
Thank you.
All right, I understand that we're not quite ready to have a report or take action on the Grow Your Own program authorization. Is that correct, Superintendent Foudy?
You skipped A though,
My base.
with the request for
Oh,
proposals for development.
I'm going to get to that. I want to give you
Here's-
the extra time. I just want to make sure that we'll just table that and take it up at the April meeting, correct? So now, Dan, you have some additional time. Tell us about your.
May I read it to you? No, no. I didn't.
Word for word.
No, I appreciate this opportunity to bring this forward. This RFP is a starting point for developing district-owned land to add to the affordable supply of staff housing. The working group's recommendation is to begin with these 3 lots owned by the district within the city of Haley. And we've identified these lots as the ones where we probably have the easiest path towards development. What we're trying to do is build a model that creates long-term rentals at affordable prices for our staff, and our hope is to attract community partners and resources to help execute the plan. The RFP that we'll be voting on tonight solicits a partner that can deliver design plans, development plans, construction plans, a property management plan, and a financial plan that will provide affordable units while also returning a stream of income back to the BCSD. We believe that this first step of development will help us gain valuable experience as we look forward to providing larger scale workforce housing on some of the district's larger lots. And with that, I'd stand for questions, but before I do, I owe a debt of gratitude to Cheryl and the folks at Holly Troxel for putting this document together. It's quite a piece of legalese, and it took people with some real strong background in development, which we're fortunate to have within the district. So thank you, Cheryl, and I'll stand for questions.
Go ahead, trustee Stone.
Could you give us a rough idea? You said it's 3 lots.
Mhm.
And how many units would you expect, or houses, or I'm not sure what kind of a building they'll end up being, but how many
Yeah.
families would you expect to be able to
We're looking at probably 6 to 8 units, 6 to 8 building units because of the zoning.
Total.
Total. I mean, we can probably get 3 on one, 2 on another, and maybe 3 on another. But that'll be something that that our partner will bring us a plan. We're trying to maximize the impact, with these lots. But again, that would be kind of the model we're looking at. This is kind of a small first step, but it is providing a model that I think we can learn from.
And how would we finance something like this? Is this something that you get a bond for, or?
No, this is what's in this proposal, in this RFP, is our contribution to the project would be our land, and our only other financial commitment to it would be an appraisal of the property. The way the model essentially works is we would put district land into the transaction. The partner then would provide all the financing. They would build, they would develop, they would entitle, they would build, and they would manage. And then we would split the revenue stream on the rents proportionate to our relative contribution to the deal. So say if the land was worth $500,000 and the development costs were $1 billion, we would then take 33% of the income stream. So it wouldn't be a capital outlay on our part. There would be some expense in the when we appraise the land to establish that value going into the deal. But overall, it's a capital light model, and it's one we'd love to test out here on this small scale.
Excellent. Thank you.
And these 3 parcels that you have identified, I take it that they are all so small that they would not be used otherwise to the district?
Well, there's always an opportunity cost with every piece of land, but currently they're not being used for a higher use than what we're anticipating this to be.
Other questions? Yes, Trustee Warren.
Is there any opportunity for, and maybe, for our high schoolers to participate in one home or, any of the building as this progresses with our construction program?
Yeah, I think there are almost 2 different things we're talking about here, but we will be in a relationship with a developer who will be constructing these units on these different properties, and I would imagine there would be plenty of opportunity for our students to be involved. I don't know as a part of a curriculum how that would work. Again, we need to see what kind of proposals come forward, and then we can negotiate those kind of things. I think that would be a nice enhancement, to someone's proposal. There would be that opportunity for our students to participate. But again, we'll put this RFP out there and see what kind of proposals come back with it.
So essentially, we're sending the RFP out, and then we're going to wait for them to come back with a lot of the ideas of how this will be managed, essentially, like
Yeah.
in the building and the architectural, like all of that.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So the process, it's got a timeline and so forth, so we put this RFP out, and we will hand deliver it to a number of people that we think may be interested. It'll be, we'll run an ad, if the board wants to go ahead with this, we'll run an ad in the paper. That we'll also have this RFP, we'll post it on our website, and with that, the interested partners will then begin putting together this model. This is how many units we can build on there. This is kind of what we think it's going to look like. This is how we can finance it. This is why I'm, the one to do this project. But there's within the RFP, there's a whole laundry list of things they check off on, and there's a point in time where we have a conference call where they can ask questions as to what our goals are and so forth, and it's a pretty detailed process. But the idea is we will have an RFP to evaluate as a board by the May board meeting.
And then sorry, Laura, don't we, because we're a school entity, that we have to have like a certain, like contractors have to have a special license Is that correct? So
Yeah.
all of these contractors will have to make sure,
Yeah.
right?
It's-
Okay.
It's in the RFP that
It is, that they have to
have
s-
I
'cause
don't-
there's-
the term is.
Yeah,
Public
public, so there's
works.
not that many though, right? So locally, so are we going to be looking outside as well?
We, you know, I know of a small universe of potential
Okay, great.
candidates. You know, we will broadcast this far and wide as
Mhm.
far as, you know, we'd love to have someone, you know,
Local.
anyone that wants to bring a proposal before us, I think we'd be happy to evaluate.
Okay, sorry, Laura.
Trustee Stone?
Is the idea that one firm would do all 3 lots? Or that they would get different, you know, we do one firm per lot?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's in the RFP that we're asking for one firm to do all 3. I think we've got some, potentially some wiggle room there, you know. Ideally, we'd like to be dealing with one entity and not be, you know, managing 3 different processes. So we are looking for someone ideally to take on all 3.
Other questions for trustee Turner? So this is the finished product, the document we have before us, the request for proposals for teacher and staff affordable housing, solicitation number RFP1.
Yes.
It's ready to go. in other words.
I found one typo in there, but I think we can live with it. The BCSC at one point, but it's.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve the request for proposals that have been provided, or has been provided to you. Again, that's Blaine County School District number 61, request for proposals for teacher and staff affordable housing, solicitation number RFP1. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. The RFP is approved for publication. And let's see, that's it for our action agenda. So now I need a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-206, 1B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints of charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, this requires a roll call vote. If you call a roll, please.
Trustee Larna,
Aye.
Trustee Stone,
Aye.
Trustee Turner,
Aye.
Trustee Romero,
Aye.
Trustee Rourke.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion carries.